будуємо нову алею під Дніпром. Вже третю за цей рік. Ось ці всі могили викопані лише з початку вересня. Для загиблих із Покровська. Таке по телевізору не покажуть.
Hey friends, it is the 11th of October. Weather's turning fouler and fouler. Yeah, rain, drizzle. And it's starting to get kind of cold. I think it's 10 degrees was the max today. So even the warmer, crappy weather is going away into the colder, crappy weather. But as much as you wish, winter is always going to come. Winter's coming, Jon Snow. So as much as you want summer to last, but you know, it is what it is. Seasons do pass, one after the other, and so does Macron, the others. So the interesting thing is, you know, from the start of the SMO, how many leaders are left? Not much. Macron, once Macron leaves, out of the main leaders of the West that started this, that got Russia pulled in, none of them will be left in power. None. That I can think of anyways. They've all been replaced. So, yeah, it's funny how that goes. Except for, of course, for the narco Green Goblin. He's perpetual. Until somebody puts him down. But that's that. He is a rabid dog in this case. Пошли, дорога, пошли. Nah. Anyways, so this isn't going to be a very long one because not that many things have happened recently. But it's interesting, you know. Two things I want to go over particularly. One, a lot of people are saying that Vladimir Vladimirovich is under pressure. And then other people are saying, oh, no, not at all. My personal view, he is under pressure. There is a conservative or more militaristic wing of the Russian government. And while I say this, I don't for a second believe there's any chance of a coup or anything like that. And the Europeans better pray to God, that most of them don't seem to believe in, that there is no coup. If there's ever a coup, they're radioactive dust, probably. Because you're going to get another Yeltsin. You will never get another Yeltsin. So there's that. And if anybody from the hardliners comes in, you're screwed. Trust me on that. But, so I think, that, you know, in my opinion, of course, he is under pressure because one of the things, you know, it's this ignorant thing in the West that they like to tie all their issues to one person and believe that whoever their opponent is wields all the power and just, you know, there's nobody else. Everybody else is there going to be their servant, slave, and strumpet if you just get rid of that one person. That's called intellectual or lack of intellectual ability. Because if you have to look at any complex society and think of, you know, that there's maybe 20, 30, 50, 100 players in that society. And who's who and what might happen from whom, you know, that's difficult. So much easier to just say, you know, we got one opponent and everything we've got, we'll just blame that one guy. Because then you don't really have to think very hard. Of course, it's stupid. It's always stupid. And it leads to the West making the stupid decisions and stupid policies that the West constantly makes, which are ruinous to it. Absolutely ruinous to it. So, we've got the situation. Drago. Сядь. Сядь. No. It's absolutely ruinous to it. Of course, there are different factions in the Russian government. And the business side faction, I think, has been proven once more that, no, It doesn't work. You can't talk to the Americans, unfortunately. You can't make deals with them, unfortunately, because the corporations, the American corporations, you know, who are you going to make deals with? The major corporations, they're all making money off this conflict. They're making big money. General Electric, they make brains for missiles, guidance systems. You know, General Motors, yeah, they're making heavy equipment. Ford, whomever, you know, and then you go into any of the aviation companies. Of course, they're all knee deep in this, so they have no interest unless you're giving stuff away for absolutely free. Here, have our resources, have our money, just be our friends, which isn't going to happen. So unless you're doing that, they have no interest in doing business in Russia because they're making more money off of blowing things up, off of this war continuing. They're war profiteers. Every American corporation, major corporation, lives and dies by the U.S. government. I mean, literally, every major corporation lives and dies by the U.S. government. You go take a look what would happen to General Electric if you cut out all the government contracts. They'll go bankrupt. They'll go bankrupt. I'm not even talking about companies like Raytheon or Lockheed Martin. Jesus. And for them, the government tit is the only thing that keeps them breathing. They're the vampires on the government's back, or on the people's back. That's who your taxes go to pay. So yeah, I'm not even going to talk about that. So there's no point in the business end. On top of that, you know, so there's different factions. There's even the pro-Israeli faction, which seem to have slightly gotten some kind of small win by having Vladimir Vladimirovich speaking to Netanyahu. And then Netanyahu saying, you know, I don't want war with Iran. If I was Iran, start getting ready for a war any minute now. Because that man lies through his friggin' rotten teeth. He breathes war and genocide. Even if he doesn't believe, I don't know if he actually believes in the Messianic Zionist supremacy. The river to the river, God gave us this land and all blah blah, and we can kill everybody who lives there, who doesn't fit our profile. I don't know if he actually believes that, but he does believe in his own greatness, A, and B, peace breaks out, he goes away, and his greatness goes away with him, however limited or unlimited it is. So, I think this was, you know, I would call this an own goal for our side, talking to the Israelis, and then bringing a message of so-called peace to the Iranians. I wouldn't trust anything the West has to say, period, let alone the Israelis. I mean, hey, for the audience, for the comments, over under before the Israelis just start whacking everybody again in Gaza. How many days do you think this is going to last? I mean, this is what, like the fourth peace deal? They broke every single one of them. Their side, of course. I mean, I understand from the side of Hamas, you know, if they continue holding hostages, now they're starting to look like they're they'll be trying to sell that terrorist label on them, and that may start to look bad. So releasing the hostages, that if nothing else, it's a PR move. But of course, knowing that Netanyahu's dead set on genocide, so over under before the Israelis start firing. At the most, if there's going to be some kind of peace, if it holds, it'll only hold while Netanyahu girds himself up for war, either deeper into Syria, or into Lebanon, or with Iran, just to cut down slightly on the fronts. But there's that. Like I said, I don't trust the Israelis for 1 second. They've shown themselves to be duplicitous to the maximum. I mean, hell, you could write handbooks on duplicity off of the Israeli examples. God's sakes, you murder the people you're negotiating with. And most in most epochs of human history, that would lead to your nation being destroyed by every one of your neighbors, because nobody would ever trust you in any kind of fathomable manner. So, and speaking of which, so this Maria minion of the CIA, hold up, gets the Nobel Peace Prize. Trump doesn't mind. Well, she dedicated it to him. Trump doesn't mind because this is the build-up for trying to replace Maduro. See, she's even a Nobel Peace Prize winner, the one that we're going to put in power as soon as we decapitate the elected government and set our own person in power. That then is going to be our hand-picked Muppet. Well, here's the problem, though. They may be able to decapitate Maduro. They may be able to put her in power, but she'll never be able to sit in power and last in power without Americans backing her. This is Vietnam to the south. Whatever forces she has, she'll be in a civil war instantly. And this is a country of mountains, jungle, and gigantic borders that you can't patrol. Ain't enough troops out there to patrol those kinds of borders. I mean, we're talking about, I think the border with just Colombia is about the size of the, the border with Brazil is about the size, or the length of the American-Mexican border. And the Americans can't patrol effectively enough their own border, let alone somebody else's border in mountains and jungle. And then there's the border with Colombia, and so on and so on. And I'll tell you what's going to happen. Just right off the bat, everybody that has a grudge with the U.S. is going to have a chance to take a whack at America's soldiers and their Muppet sitting in power. So that's what's going to happen there. This is going to be another Vietnam for America, one richly deserved for everything that the U.S. is doing, and the American people aren't exactly marching in anti-war demonstrations. They're going to get another real perpetual war that's going to be much worse than Iraq. And this is going to be the cause for every single person, whether left or right. Most of them will be leftist, though, but left or right, who has a grudge with the U.S. and everything the U.S. has done in Latin America for the last 150 years. Post-Monroe Doctrine, the U.S. is the biggest break on any kind of advancement of Latin America. The U.S. has meddled in every single Latin American country. They've overthrown quite a few of them. They sponsored wars, death squads, revolutions, and so on, to get at the resources, to make sure there's no competition, to be able to control the areas. And they have sponsored quite a bit of poverty in this whole area. And those people know it. Don't think they don't know this. So they're already, the U.S. is going to march right into Vietnam Part 2. Well, Trump is, of course, as Trump said, it's all those morons, politically correct morons that lost Vietnam. If they only knew how to fight to win. I weren't politically correct. 3 million dead Vietnamese civilians, but they were politically correct. God forbid what happens if you're not politically correct. I guess just Nazi concentration camps, like the U.S. did in the Philippines when it was conquering the Philippines. Oh, I'm sorry, those are called relocation camps, where they took out, in those 4 years, almost 20% of the population of the Philippines. The aim was 50, to be honest. If you look at historically what the commanding general wanted, every boy older than 10 years old will never be loyal to us, should be killed. Yeah, there's bringing democracy to you. Yep, but those are brown Asian people, and they were Catholics, so they weren't really human beings. Drago, come here. Oh, it's horrible if you actually read up on the Philippines, the massacres that were going on. It's really horrid. It wasn't that long ago, 140 years ago, but the Empire Age for America, which by the way hasn't ended in one form or another, just like the French Empire Age never really ended until, well, it's being ended right now in Africa, thanks to Russian forces helping the local nationalists get rid of the French and their Queeslings that continue to rule in those areas and bring everything to the French. Иди сюда, Драго. Ко мне, Драго. Давай, сядь. Сядь, на. So, this is going to be the cause of the century for everybody in Latin America who has a chip on his shoulder. And it's not just going to be leftists. Any nationalist who understands what the U.S. has done to their nations is going to have a hell of a chip on their shoulder. And they're going to go after it. And it's going to be, you know, it's not going to be that difficult to get in there. In fact, some militias in Brazil have already pledged themselves, and in Colombia too, pledged themselves to fight the U.S. once it gets into Venezuela. So getting in's easy. It's always easy. It's getting out that's hard. But Trump said, you know, they were all idiots. That's why they didn't know how to fight. Because Trump showed them in Vietnam. He showed them really, really hard in Vietnam. Oh, wait, that's right. He never went. He never served. Oh, woe is me. What was I thinking? That's right. He's from the rich class, the millionaire class. They don't serve unless, well, I won't say they don't. There were some that did, as officers mostly. And my hat's off to people that serve, that really don't have to serve, and they decide to serve their country. That's how it should be. The rich should be the first ones to serve. Problems in Russia, in that case, started with Catherine the Great, who, one of the things that she did very badly, amongst very many things, Drago, куда ты? Сядь. Сядь. And she did, one of the things she did badly was she removed the mandatory military service from the aristocracy. And that's when you start getting the rich, lazy, or the rich and degenerate aristocracy forming, because they no longer have to serve, they no longer have to give anything back. You know, they're there to take. The rich and the upper class has to lead. Always has to lead. It has to lead properly. If they don't, they always lead no matter what. It's how they lead. If they serve the state, they serve the government, they serve the king or the president, what have you. They serve their society and make an example of that, or they become degenerate and they make an example of that for the rest of society. I mean, that's how it works. So yes. But yes, Trump never served, of course. He got exemptions. But he's up there talking now about all those stupid generals that, you know, they didn't know how to win Vietnam. That's why it was lost. He's going to show them all in Venezuela, Vietnam 2.0. Yeah. What did you vote for again? End to Forever Wars? You're about to get some really good Forever Wars. Forever Wars and an upgraded scale. Пошли, куда ты идешь? Мы в лес не идем в это время. So yes, yeah, you're about to get some serious Forever Wars. So, so they give the Nobel Peace Prize to Maria. I can't remember her last name at the moment. I did remember her first name. It starts with a Che or something. I'm sure somebody will correct me. I'll just go look it up when I get this video done. But so Maria is now part of that opposition that, didn't even run in the last elections, let alone win in the last elections. But she's going to be the new American showpiece. And she's gotten her Nobel Peace Prize for spreading peace by trying to overthrow the government. Or something like that. So revolution is peace. War is peace. I mean, we're deep into Orwell here. I mean, we're 1984 all the way, baby. There's that. I mean, she never actually. You could actually say Trump really is a better candidate than she is, but the CIA needed her so to make this little appealing or attempted appeal that look, it's a Nobel Peace Prize winner. That's our Muppet that's going to be in power. But she's also a Zionist. Of course she is. She's also pro Argentina, because there's a Zionist there in power. Of course there is. So, I mean, that's how on the ludicrous level it gets. And she's playing the I won't be the Muppet of Washington. Of course she is. So yeah, it really does get that absurd, and it doesn't get any better. That's the problem. It's only getting more and more absurd. So, Drago, сядь. Drago, сядь. Сядь. Anyways, and we continue on. So yeah, so there's that. Yeah. So, what else? The other issue I wanted to cover is literally this ludicrous platform about the Russian economy collapsing. I mean, we've talked about this when I was on Durin. I've talked in other places. The Russian economy is not collapsing. Granted, our central bank cranked up interest rates a bit too high to control inflation, and we wound up with, they've lowered it, and we wound up with about 1% growth rate. And it'll probably be about 1.3 by the end of the year, but that's not because of the war. That's because of a central bank overzealous inflation fight. I'm not a big believer in central banks. I believe the Ministry of Finance can do anything that central bankers do. I don't trust bankers. Little banks, yes. Big financial organizations, big international finance, absolutely not. That's the real enemy of humanity, if you haven't figured that out yet. It's not rightists or leftists or communists or monarchists. These are the real globalists. These are the absolute real globalists. The I am a citizen of the world globalists. It's the financial people. It's the big finance people. So anyway, so we go on to this. They're continually beating the drum and got all their little Muppets out there beating the drum about the Russian economy collapsing and there's fuel crisis. There is no fuel crisis. First of all. Second of all, you see these fuel refineries. Fuel refineries, if you've never seen one, they're like 15 plus kilometers long of pipes. You hit the pipes, you don't get a big explosion because they're all pressure monitored, and you'll have the valves just cut them off. Sometimes if you hit a really big vessel, then yeah, it'll take a while to get it fixed. It may take a while because you may have to build a new one. The little vessels, they go pretty fast. Mostly what you see with a big burn is the fuel depots, which are just big fuel tanks, big round steel fuel tanks, giant, really. And the lid on them goes up and down under pressure as they get filled up. Yeah, they burn. It looks really pretty for the enemy to show, ooh, look, it's burning. But at the end of the day, it doesn't do much. Because they can be replaced relatively quickly. And, when they say like, oh, they're all going up to like 40, 50%, I think the actual figure was about 18% cut in production. And then you got to consider that in that 18% cut in production, those facilities do get fixed. It's not permanent knockout. They get fixed. They get back up on their feet, and they get back up and running. Something that they don't want to talk about. My Russian language Telegram channel, so I've got about 10,500 subscribers, and I just ran a little survey. Tell me what you know. What region you're from, and how's your fuel situation? Are you out of fuel? Are you in fuel lines? Do you know of any gas stations or petrol stations that are out of fuel? 2 people in 2 different regions said they knew. One of them knew of a station that was out of the more popular 92 octane brand. They're only selling 95 octane brand. And the other one said that they knew one station that was closed because they were out of fuel. But both were private small stations, and they're last on the list to get fuel from the big majors. The big majors are going to fuel up their stations first. Their brand stations. That was it. No fuel lines. Well, people complain the fuel prices went up, and they always go up. That's called inflation. It's a pain. It's a bitch. But that's what happens when you have a fiat currency. Like it or not, all governments start printing. It's just a question of how much they're printing and how fast things are rising. But that's just inflation. That's not, we're out of fuel. So no, there is no issues with fuel. The Russian economy is not collapsing, no matter how much these people may wish. I mean, they've only been saying it for the last 3 years, but since they continue to really lose on the battlefield, and their proxies continue to lose on the battlefield, and they have no choice, so they're making this a big emphasis. Now, Russia has gone this time after the electricity and the gas for the Ukrainians. There's a reason for this, two-part reason. Reason on the closer strategic side, it's to get the people out of the cities that are coming up to be frontline cities. Kharkiv, for example, Sumy. It's going to get cold. These are northern parts of Ukraine. It gets cold. Winter is probably about a month away. So by mid-November, you're in the winter months, even there. Depending on how cold the winter is going to be. That's not survivable. No water, no electricity, no heat, no gas. No electricity, no pumping stations, no gas. So people aren't going to be able to survive there. They're going to have to leave. You get rid of civilians out of the way, and then it's much easier to maneuver. Much smaller chance of any civilian casualties as you continue to exterminate the Ukrainian armed forces and their NATO mercs. So that's one point. It's a very good point, because then the West can't keep screaming, our куда ты? Сядьте, делай свое дело. Our anti-air missiles have hit more buildings than, of course we won't say it's our anti-air missiles, or chunks of them, because I keep putting the anti-air systems in the middle of cities. So yeah, all the missiles go up, they will eventually come down. I know, incredible physics. But so they'll get rid of civilians from there. But on a bigger point, what you're going to have is a massive press of civilians, because there's still about 20 million or so people left in Ukraine. And you're going to watch, some will go to the villages and they'll survive there on wood stoves and things like that. But even with so many abandoned villages, there were really a lot of abandoned villages well before the SMO started, just because Ukraine continued to spiral into absolute abject poverty that nobody wants to talk about anymore, because just like nobody wants to talk about Ukraine's Nazi problems, before they talked about it. But the moment the SMO started, they started trying to clean off all the articles and everything else. Unfortunately for them, the internet always remembers everything. So what you're going to have is you're going to have a press of another 5, 6, 7 million people flooding into Poland and other neighboring countries, which is going to create huge problems. Huge friggin' problems for the Polish government and other governments. I mean, we already see how Ukrainians, or for themselves, what can you say? For the most part, they're their own worst PR machine. Swayed the vote in Czech. Ukrainians are 10% of the population in Czech right now. And they've acted the way they've acted in a lot of places, these that go west. They're entitled, opinionated, racist, and the Czechs got sick and tired of it. And they elected Babiš because of that. That was probably, of all things, even the economic pain, the collapsing industry of Czech, and there's the Ukrainians. these Ukrainian refugees. There's another interesting topic that came up is this little mini civil war between Ukrainians and Italy that have lived there for decades, or well before the SMO, that have settled, that work, that became integrated into Italian society, and these new ones. Because when the Italians look at them, they all see the same face. They see the ones that are arrogant, the ones that are rude, and they don't see the difference a lot of times. So these people that are settled into Italy, and I'm sure this is everywhere else, they don't want these others, the newcomers, because they're screwing it up for them badly. So that's just another little interesting tad bit matrix in the matrix to consider. So yes, there's a lot of little variants like that playing themselves out. So we'll see how that happens. But there's going to be massive pressure on the borders, massive pressure on the Europeans, as millions upon millions of more Ukrainians are flooding in westward. So I'm pretty sure that's going to just make the locals really, really happy. And that's part of the long war. That's part of the long war of attrition. So next couple months on that front is going to be very, very interesting. So we'll live and see. We'll live and see. All right, I will stop entertaining you now and let you think it over, or maybe just ignore everything I said. Your choice. God bless. Well, like I said, I'd look it up. Maria Machado. Okay, so there's that. Yes, my memory for names is horrible. I didn't remember her first name. Please share. Please sign up. And if you can support, by all means, please, I will be grateful. My Bitcoin wallet number is in the description. So let me know. And, well, we'll see how Venezuela goes. I think Vietnam 2.0 may be just around the corner. Not sure how they're going to do it without a draft, but we'll live and see. We'll live and see. Maybe that'll actually get the anti-war opposition finally awake. Or maybe not. We'll see. God bless.